wanting to pop on and discuss something that's been on my mind about some of these new FSD trials that are going out in December, like December 2025. Like enjoy full self-driving for the holiday. So a lot of people that haven't experienced FSD at all are getting these free trials, and a lot of people that might have experienced it early on or earlier in other free trials are experiencing a new version that's greatly improved. So how does this tie into what I want to talk about? I want to talk about maintenance and how Tesla vehicles don't require maintenance, which is basically true, especially if you compare it to a normal car that you have to get oil changes. You do need to change your cabin air filter. So it's a little bit wrong to say that but you don't need to change plugs. You don't need to do anything basically except maybe change your brake pads at 150,000 miles, maybe. And then it's good to change people have different opinions about the brake fluid. The dot fluid absorbs moisture. So it just, even if you don't use them, or if you do use your brakes, it doesn't matter. The fluid will absorb moisture and perform worse. So it's good to change your fluid out every once in a while. But overall, they don't require maintenance. Well, I feel like that's changing. I feel like there's a big elephant in the room that's emerged over this last year, but especially with V14, and that is the camera cleaning. The camera housing up here is below the windshield, and so it has to look out the windshield. And since it's all kind of not sealed up, but it's all covered up there, you can't really clean it like you can clean your normal windshield. Just about everyone knows that, or has probably noticed what I've noticed, I assume, that your windshield, if you don't clean it on the inside for a while, it gets this haze on it. And that haze apparently comes from off-gassing from the vehicle and the parts of the vehicle. I know it can also come from if you store items in your vehicle in the heat, those can off-gas as well. But anyway, that's turning into be a pretty big deal for FSD. And we had our Legacy Model Y, which we bought new about a year ago. It's a 2025 Legacy Model Y. We had the windshield replaced about 6 months ago. And so, because of a crack, so we just had it replaced about 2 weeks before the windshield protection service started, but I won't go into that. I didn't worry about it because it's like, okay, got a new windshield. Being someone very familiar with FSD, I was aware that was possibly an issue, but I wasn't worried about it. Well, when 14 came out, that car was having a little bit of an issue. It just seemed like it wasn't performing quite as well as what other people were reporting with 14.1.3, I think. So I decided to take the camera housing apart and clean it. And it made a huge difference. I mean, and that is a brand new windshield. 6 months before that, I might have the time wrong. It might have been 4 months. It might have been 7-8 months. But I mean, it wasn't really thick, the haze, but it was noticeably better driving. I mean, by noticeably, I mean it basically got rid of it, made it perform like everyone else's vehicle that was reporting. So, is this something we're going to have to do every 6 months on these vehicles? Is this our new oil change is cleaning the camera housing? I don't know. These new versions use high resolution cameras, and they're starting to use the actual every pixel of that camera now. As the versions get from 13 to 14. In version 12, they were not using all the resolution, so it wasn't as big of a deal. And then the hardware 3, the cameras aren't even capable of high resolution, all being very vague. I don't know the technical resolution of them, but so now if there's a haze on the windshield, it basically mutes the camera a little bit, and And that's and bringing all this back to the free trial. So if you have people that have 1 to 2 year old Teslas, they're just driving them like normal, maybe using autopilot, which uses lower resolution. It doesn't use the high resolution of E14. It reduces the resolution. Are they going to try it and have bad experiences because their cameras need clean or their camera housing needs clean? Maybe. I mean, it will come up on the screen that you need to clean it, but that right there will be an ender. That's not, that's consumers when they want to try something, it needs to work. And so that's something that's got me a little bit worried, specifically about this trial. Is this new maintenance that's required on this car? I bought this car about 6 months ago, and it was really dirty. It was really bad. You could see it. And so I did what I call the JC technique, which JC is a great YouTuber, Uber driver down in Houston, that put up a video about using a metal fish spatula, I think, and a microfiber cloth to clean, just to kind of get in there and clean. That's what I did. But then recently I did it again, and it was a little bit hazy again. So by recently, I mean V14 times, because the Model Y, it helped it so much. I wanted to make sure and do it to this car too, to make sure to get the best performance possible. And to a lesser extent, the outside cameras too. I've had really poor performances on unprotected lefts, ride on reds, unprotected rights, just out of nowhere. And I realized that those cameras need wiped down. Sometimes I'd get a notification, sometimes I wouldn't, but as soon as I wiped them down, then I wasn't having that issue. So I think those are very easy to clean. But this whole idea of possibly having to do this maintenance is it's a little bit worrisome. It's possible that with AI and that they're able to train the models to deal with the dirty cameras. And the reason I think that is because there's been times where I've been all day working, and then at some point I just look at my glasses, like I take them off my head and kind of just to relax my eyes for a second. I look at them like, these things are filthy, and I realize that I need to clean my glasses. And as soon as I clean them, I notice, wow, it's much better. But really before that, I was functioning fine. So because of that experience, I think that they can probably work around that. But I think there's always going to be a need to get that housing as clean as possible. And we'll have to see if the off-gassing is only for the first couple of years of a vehicle, because the older cars, like my 2021 Model 3 that I had, it was clear as could be up there. I'd never cleaned it. Obviously, those cameras are lower resolution, probably weren't as sensitive to it. But I mean, there was just never a reason to clean it, because it was always performing fine. It performed as well as anybody that had a hardware 3 vehicle, maybe even better. I was really impressed with how well it performed. But that's just what I wanted to discuss. But for sure, it's an issue for these people that are getting these free trials. I'm a product of the free trial, so I'm really passionate about that and the experience. And I bought my Model 3, my 2021 Model 3, in March of 2024. And then that free trial literally came out within 2 or 3 weeks of me buying that car. And that was my first introduction to FSD. And, I was fortunate. So V12, that's as far back as I go. V12, which is kind of the breakthrough that accelerated the progress to where we are now, is the end-to-end neural net, which, anyway, that was started on V12. But anyway, as soon as it downloaded, it was at night, I took a drive out to where we stored our RV, and it perform. It did the whole drive without an intervention, and it was jerky. But I was just sitting there in the driver's seat. I was just amazed that none of my car friends, enthusiasts, even knew about this. None of my friends that have to have the latest gadget, which I've kind of turned into that person now. But anyway, nobody knew about this. And I'm like, there's cars that can drive themselves now. If you were to ask somebody, they'd say we're still 10 or 20 years away. And I'm getting into a car and it's driving me without me touching anything. On the way back from that drive, I had 2 or 3 pretty nasty interventions. So I definitely got lucky going there, but it was about a 20-minute drive. So it wasn't short. But anyway, if I would have got in there and it wouldn't have performed very well, or it would have done some weird stuff, I possibly wouldn't have basically become such a big believer in the technology. And so I worry about, it's a strange thing to worry about. I worry about people's camera housings being dirty. And, just from my personal experience and how dirty mine, by dirty, I mean hazy, the windshield's gotten. There's, if you've had a car for multiple years and you've never used it, never used FSD, then that could be a problem. Anyway, I'll let you go. I'll quit rambling, but just wanted to have that discussion as I head home on this beautiful Friday evening. Beautiful Model Y Juniper right there in front of us on the right. Hopefully they're using FSD. Thank you for joining me. Talk to you next time.